everybody. So we're gonna finish my houseplant tour. I am at the bottom of my stairs and there's 2 floors to my house. Last week I showed you the downstairs and this week I'll show you the upstairs. There's a lot of things that are sort of pending. I have a lot of plants and this is not necessarily my long-term plan. I'd really like to get one of those IKEA cabinets that people turn into a little greenhouse. But my closest IKEA is 2 hours away, plus the thing that I want is out of stock. So anyways, all of the plants are pretty healthy and happy, but I definitely need to consider another storage solution, especially as we're getting into fall and winter here in Massachusetts. So we're gonna start at this little landing, a weird little setup here. So I'm gonna flip you around and off we go. Thanks for coming with me. All right, so we're downstairs. So on this little landing, so this window over here is a east-facing window. And this is actually one of my oldest plants. This is my MONSTERA DELICIOSA, and it's doing pretty well. It actually looks like it might be a little bit thirsty. But this is big. I have it in a pretty big pot. That actually one time I hit with the vacuum and it fell down the stairs. But anyways, I've actually pretty aggressively trimmed this one back because it unfortunately has mealybugs, which is why it's here, because there's nothing else around. It's kind of isolated. It's my weird little stake that's not doing much of anything. But so I sprayed it, I used systemic insecticides, and what I found to be the most effective was to cut back the parts that were really bad, because, you know, this is a plant that with all of the crevices and everything, oh, there's a mealy right there. So with all of the crevices, they can hide and they come back. So I consider this plant to, it's an ongoing battle for me. Obviously, I'm not completely free of them, but I do think that I have it under control. I usually go through about every 1 to 2 weeks, and I will take a little alcohol wipe it off what I can see. I did have good luck using the systemic, and I might do that again, but I also bought this bug killer that I read about on Facebook, and I've yet to use it, but that's going to be my next step. And with stuff like this, you know, I tried all of the natural things, and, you know, they didn't not work, but, you know, the infestation, when I noticed it, it was really bad because this was one of my earliest plants. You know, now I know what to look for, and I thought that it was just little fuzzy things on the plant. But anyways, so it's an ongoing battle. I think I'm winning, but I am super careful. So this plant will forever be by itself. There's a couple of plants that I might sacrifice. I'm thinking about hanging one up here that I found a single mealy on, and I'll show you that plant, but I haven't found any. And then I have this, oh, what is this? A jewel orchid, which this is the first one I've ever had. I like the leaves. I don't know. I just moved it. It was in kind of a dark spot. So I moved it to this window, and it's probably getting enough light, but it's definitely at risk of a mealybug infestation. But I guess I decided to sacrifice it. So it's on this weird little table here. And those are the 2 plants that I have here. So now we're going to go upstairs. I'm not going to take you into the bathroom right away because that's weird. But this is my little office space. So I have this cool little snake plant that I found. I think it might be an owl eye or something. But I found this, wasn't labeled, just labeled as a snake plant. But I liked, you know, you can see the little baby here is, you know, kind of pale and has some weird stripy things. So I liked this plant a lot. So that's there. I have this Parlor palm, which was given to me for free. And it's really happy. I've heard that this is a plant that's really, really hard to kill. I've cut this one back. This one sends out little flowers, not recently, but you know, it seems to be pretty happy here. My little cat knocked it over last week and seems to be fine. So this is my begonia WIGHTII, I think is how you say it. So this was definitely a lust-worthy plant. It's doing great. So this window over here is a west-facing window. And I had it actually probably in a pretty similar lighting position, but lately it's just been putting out a lot of new growth. To be honest, I don't really know if it's supposed to be trailing like this, but I kind of like it. I had one dead leaf that I picked off, but I think I told you last week, I find that my begonias like to be a little bit moister than some of my other plants. So I've been making sure to come through and make sure that the soil isn't too dry. So that's that one on my little desk here. Now, my boyfriend just did this, and there's a lot of plants over here. This isn't how it was a week ago, but I have my money plant that, oh geez, is great. It's huge. It's really happy. This, you know, is not a particularly special plant, but I do like how big it is, and it blocks out some of my, you know, neighbors, I guess. But I'm going to move it out of the way just because I want you to see these other plants. So I have a dead or dying orchid that has scale on it. This one is actually probably going to get tossed out pretty soon. I've never been able to keep an orchid alive, and this one I keep covered because I just don't want to look at it. This is my Peperomia GINNY, I think. This plant's doing pretty well. I like the pink on it. You know, it's not really one that I think about a lot. I think I forgot about it. This little windowsill here is very neglected, actually. I've been trying to pay more attention to it. So that's this one. Now here, this plant is actually doing really well since I moved it. This is a, what I believe is a philodendron painted lady. And I didn't even really know what it was when I bought it. I think it was labeled. But anyways, I had it in, I think, too far away from a window, and I just moved it last week into this west-facing window. And I can see even in a week, the leaves that have come out have this really nice variegation. So this plant overall is actually pretty big. You can see it's a single vine. I probably should think about repotting it and staking it. That's on my to-do list. But you know, you can see over here, it has a lot of new growth. And the leaves here are actually pretty variegated. And then over here, it has a lot of new growth. So I'm actually probably going to be taking some cuttings of this plant soon. I really love this plant. And like I said, it wasn't here until recently, and this is a little crowded. So this is what I meant when I said I need another storage solution. Now this is, oh man, I forget what this plant is. It's a philodendron. No, it's a SCINDAPSUS. That's what it is. It's a moonlight. That's what this plant is. So I bought it when it was a little tiny baby. Wasn't very happy for a while, but it has become happier since it's been in this window. You can see there's a new leaf here. I really like the silver coloration on these leaves. So, you know, this is my first one. Oh, it's a little dusty, but that's this one. I have a silver dollar plant, which again is a little dusty. I was a little mad at this plant for a while. When I bought it, you know, it just came as like a bunch of sticks in a box. And I don't know, I planted it the best that I could, and some of them died. But this obviously isn't a great spot for it, although there is some new growth. But as you can probably tell, it's not one of my most prized possessions. There's a dead begonia there. We all do it. Now this is my MONSTERA. I think that this is an ALBO BORSIGIANA. So this plant I've had for a couple of years. It's not very variegated, as you can see. I had it probably not in a correct lighting situation. And what I ended up doing last year is I trimmed it back to the area where I could see variegation on the stem. And since then, every other leaf has come out variegated. The most recent one is the variegated leaf is this one, which is pretty cool looking. And then I had this green one. So there's no variegation on the stem, but there is a new leaf about to come out. So I don't really know what I'm going to do. You know, I know that these have a tendency to revert to a not a variegated plant, and I would really be sort of devastated if that happened. But it does have some nice coloration on it. It's not one that you can see very well just because of where I have it, but I do like to look at it, and I know that I have it, and you know, it's one of my most prized things. So that's that one. My boyfriend also, so this is his area. I'll have to see the details, but he put up these shelves for me earlier this year during quarantine. And I have a variegated peace lily that is pretty happy here. You know, it does the dramatic thing where it droops and, you know, you give it a good water and it comes back. I think this one is called a Jessica. This is I think it's a red or purple ripple peperomia. This is, believe it or not, pretty happy. This over here is a north-facing window, so it seems to be pretty good. I have my philodendron, I can't think of what this one is called, but I'll post it when I can figure it out. So this one seems to be pretty happy. I think it might be a Hope, but this isn't the one that gets super big. But I like the leaves and the shape, and it's nice and dark green. I like the pot it's in, and it seems to be pretty happy up there. And then this is another snake plant that I haven't killed, believe it or not. And then over here is my Pothos Marble Queen. I've taken a lot of cuttings off of this one, and I actually think, so I had it over on the other side of this room, and I think it got too much light, so there were a lot of burn spots. So I moved it into this corner, and since then you could see there's a lot of variegated leaves spilling over the top. So I got this as a pretty well-established plant, and I'm pretty happy with how it is. So that's this one. So that's the office. Now we're going over to my very pink bedroom, and it's kind of a mess. So we'll start over here. So I have just a regular old peace lily. These curtains are also new, so I think it's getting enough light, but you can see that it's reaching. So this plant is kind of a cool story. I found it in a thrift shop. It was $5. It looked really sad, and I just kept repotting it, and now it is this big, beautiful plant, and it flowers all the time. You know, again, the curtain's probably not ideal for it, but I really like the curtains. So anyways, and I got this planter at Target. It was kind of expensive though, but I really like this plant, and it's super easy. I have a Dischidia oantha variegated. This is kind of new. So this, from what I understand, this is a Hoya cousin. I don't know if they flower, but this one I saw, and it was actually pretty cheap, so I bought it, and here it lives. I have a bad habit of hanging my plants on the curtain rods, so we'll see how long that lasts for. But anyways, so that's this one. You know, I don't really have any special care tips, except I don't overwater it. This is the cutting I took off of my, oh geez, it's stuck with the roots, of my variegated MONSTERA. And so there's some variegation on these leaves, but like I said, every other leaf is variegated, so I don't know what to do. But this is a pretty good sized plant. I have my Queen of Thorns, which I lately have been feeling a little conflicted about. When I got it, it was actually, I saw this, or you know, this type of plant in my dentist's office, and I said, what is that? And I had to have it, but I don't know. It's all right. It has been putting out some new growth at the top, but I can't repot it because it pricks me and it hurts. So I've just been kind of letting it do its thing. But this is kind of prime real estate. This is a south-facing window. So I've been thinking, I don't know, I've sold a couple of plants lately, and this one I could probably sell pretty easily for not too much. And I don't know, I've been thinking about it just because it's not bringing me joy. But now I also have a rickrack cactus, or a zigzag cactus, that's doing pretty well. All of these really skinny leaves, if you can see, so there's a little skinny piece of new growth, and then you could see the zigzag shape here. So I guess these are the real babies, and then these are the adolescents, and then this is an adult leaf. I have a Hoya carrii here, which probably should be in a better lighting situation. But this plant is actually putting out some new growth, doing pretty well. Don't think about it too much. Now I have my mini MONSTERA. I forget how to say the real name for it, but you know what I mean. Rapidiphora tetrasperma. So it has two stems. One of them's climbing way up high. This plant is so easy. I lusted over this plant for so long. They're much easier to come by now. But this plant, I've put it here and it is just growing and growing. I've taken cuttings and it grows and grows and grows. So this was a really special find and it deserves the prime real estate. Now I have a MONSTERA, I think this is STILTEPECANA, and I don't know if I'm saying it right, but this is a vining plant. And I love it. You know, I love the variegation on the leaves and it's super pretty. Now I have my most prized pink princess philodendron, which I think we all know and love. It's a big plant. It's doing great. I've taken a bunch of cuttings. I've sold them actually, but this plant is like my pride and joy. It was a birthday present to myself a couple years ago, so I really love it. I'm just going to stop the video just for 1 second. Okay. So that's the pink princess philodendron. Here's the dog that I forgot outside in the yard, which is why I had to run downstairs. It is fenced in. Now this was also a free plant. This is just your standard pothos. It's doing pretty well in this kind of low light corner. And like I said, it was free. So I love pothos plants. They're so easy. They can take over a space really quickly. I just love them. You know, they're really easy to propagate and, you know, they just really fill in a space. So this one's here. Now I have some type of a croton. I don't know if I'm saying that right. This plant is all right. I don't know. When I got it, it had a lot of pink on it, which I thought was cool, but it's not really very special. I have my rubber tree here, my MONSTERA ADANSONII, which is actually, this is another plant that I lusted over, and I love it. It's doing really well with the vines. Again, I've taken a bunch of cuttings off of it, and I think every time I take a cutting, it spurts out some new growth. I have my, I think that this is a silver sword philodendron. It's doing pretty well. That leaf came to me sort of damaged like that. But I think that this is another one that I had in too bright of a spot. So, you know, as I said, to my right is a south-facing window, and we're about, we'll say 10 feet away. So it seems to be really happy. These new leaves that it's putting out are really pretty. So I really love this plant. I mean, it can get to be big and beautiful. Mine is still a baby. Now I have my SAYURI, I think, snake plant. This is a pretty cool plant. I like the colors on it and the stripes. Last year I really got into my snake plants, so I have a couple more. So I also have a HOYA pubic calyx splash, which this is a duplicate, but I couldn't turn it down. This could be, I don't know if this is the purple Hawaiian or whatever you call it. I'm not really sure. You know, I'm not really expecting it to bloom anytime soon, but it's doing pretty well. And then this is, I think that this is a copper tone snake plant, kind of a weird plant. You know, the leaves, I guess, look like this, like wrinkled and sort of dead looking, but it is sort of cool with the colorations on it. I have this shelf here. So I have my CEBU blue pothos. This is my Philodendron BRANDTIANUM, excuse my pronunciation. And it's, you know, could be better. It's kind of scraggly, but, you know, it is putting out some new growth here. This is another one that I think was in too bright of a spot. Now this one is my, is it a MONSTERA or Raphidophora? I don't know how to say it. Decursiva. It's a decursiva, definitely, but I forget what the actual name is. But this plant is really cool. You know, it has like these weird indentations on the leaves. The leaves are really shiny and lush looking, and yes, I need to clean it. But this one's doing pretty well. I have cut it, and I think it's growing a new stem up there. And then I have another begonia WIGHTI that's also doing really well. And now for the last room, and like I said, I know my house is really small, but this is my bathroom. So I have a couple of plants in here. So as you can see, this is a pretty dark room. Over the toilet, I have my Raven ZZ plant. This I bought at Home Depot. I heard somewhere online don't water it more often than you pay your rent. And so I try really hard to follow that rule. You know, I say, is it September 1st? And if it's not, then, or the 1st of the month, then I don't water it. But it seems to be doing okay. You know, these plants like dark spaces, or not dark, but low light spaces. And so I'm surprised that it's doing well. I don't think much else could really grow in this dark corner. But this plant is happy, we'll say. So now I have my Hoya australis that my mom bought for me. This plant is pretty cool. I don't know if I was maybe overwatering. I didn't really think so, but this is also a pretty humid room. I pulled out a bunch of dead stems from in here, or yellow stems. So I don't know what that was about, but otherwise it seems pretty happy. This is a plant I found a single mealy on, and I'm thinking about hanging it from the ceiling over my MONSTERA that I showed you first. You know, if you're going to be infected together. So I don't know. Right now, it's probably not an ideal location. Again, I told you I have a bad habit of hanging things off my curtain rods, but that's what this one is. Now, this one is a Peperomia serpens. I really loved this plant when I saw it. It looks like a little scraggly. Maybe it's not getting enough light, but I really liked the heart-shaped leaves and the pink stems. And peperomias are pretty easy, and I like the trailing nature of this one. And I just found it at Home Depot or Lowe's or something. So I have another Tradescantia here, just a plain green one. I think this one I took cuttings off of the other ones, and then I just stuck them in a pot, and you know, it seems to be pretty happy. This is my Hoya Rebecca, and this one, when it gets sun stressed, has a really nice, you know, reddish tone to the leaves. It's, you know, again, this is a north-facing window. It may not be the best spot for this, but you know, for now, actually, this year it's put out a lot of new growth. You know, there's little leaves coming off of the vines here, so I'm pretty happy with how it's done so far. It's grown a lot since I've gotten it. It's just not really what I pictured. I have my Hoya Sunrise that came to me. Actually, I think when I bought the Rebecca, the girl sent me a cutting, an unrooted cutting of the Sunrise, and I stuck it in water. I let it get really big roots, and then I finally planted it in soil, and this plant has actually put out a lot of new growth this year too. You know, this is one that also can get sun stressed and have a really nice, like, reddish coloration to it. Obviously, we're not seeing that, but it's still a pretty Hoya. And I found this weird little planter for it. So I like head planters. And this is a begonia that died, or I guess went dormant, and it is coming back. I dropped it on the floor. Obviously not one of my most prized plants. And then the last one that I'll show you is my Pearls and Jade Pothos, which I think that, so this was in soil and it just didn't look great. So I ended up taking it out. I rinsed the roots off. I stuck it in water. And so since I did that, the roots are doing great. It's put out new growth on the top. So I might try again and just try it in a different location. When I first bought this plant, it wasn't easy to find. I don't remember where I found it from. I mean, they're much easier to find now. But, you know, I kind of lusted over this one for a while, but now it's sitting in a dark corner of my bathroom behind a curtain. But it's, I mean, all pothos I find to be pretty easy. This one, I think maybe it was just being a little fickle. But, you know, that's the upstairs. That's actually, believe it or not, all my plants, except if you want to count my outdoor space, but we won't go into that. So thanks for watching. Well, maybe I'll do another tour. I'll show you some new plants when I buy them, but let me know if you have any questions or feedback. So thanks for watching. Bye.